Hi. Thank you so much for joining me. When I was a little girl, the Princess and the Pea always bothered me. The story tells of a prince searching for a true princess. But what stuck with me was how this so-called princess complained about a tiny pea hidden beneath 20 mattresses. To me, she seemed spoiled, fragile, someone making a fuss over nothing. But as I revisited the story years later, I began to see it differently. That princess wasn't weak or pampered. She was perceptive, sensitive enough to notice what others could not, and courageous enough to speak with truth, even in front of a royal court. And that, to me, is what true nobility looks like. The strength to feel deeply and the boldness to be honest about it. I also found great satisfaction in that there isn't a villain in this story. No evil queen, no pompous prince, no evil stepdaughters, no spoiled princess like I once thought. Just a royal family, a true princess, kind, honest, and brave, and a tiny little pea. I hope you enjoy this original expanded retelling of The Princess and the Pea by Hans Christian Andersen. Long ago, in a kingdom where mountains stood firm like watchful giants, and rivers sparkled in the sun like strands of silver thread, there lived a young prince. He was kind and handsome, but he had one worry that kept him awake at night. He longed to marry a true princess. Not just anyone who called herself a princess would do. The prince wanted someone with genuine grace and a heart as noble as her title. Many young ladies arrived at the palace gates, some in gowns sewn with gold, others with crowns that glittered. But with each lady he met, the prince's heart whispered, "Not yet. Something is missing." The king and queen were much dismayed over their son's failed searches. The queen especially feared he would never be satisfied. "Perhaps," she said one evening, as she sat by the fire, "a true princess must be tested in a true princess's way." The prince leaned forward. "But how does one test for such a thing, mother? A crown proves nothing, and jewels can be borrowed." The queen's eyes twinkled, but she said no more for the moment. One summer evening, as rain lashed against the palace windows and thunder rolled through the hills, a great knocking was heard at the castle gates. The guards opened the heavy wooden doors, and in tumbled a figure, cloaked and dripping wet. She was a young woman. Her hair, plastered with rain, clung to her cheeks. Her dress was muddy at the hem, and yet even in such a state, she carried herself with great dignity. "I am a princess," she said softly, though her voice was weary. "I seek shelter for the night." The queen raised an eyebrow. "A princess, you say?" "Yes, your majesty," the young woman replied, dropping into a graceful curtsy despite her soaked gown. "I have traveled far, and the storm caught me unprepared." The prince's heart stirred. There was something honest in her eyes, but the queen only smiled to herself, for she had devised in her mind quite the clever plan. That evening, while the guest dried herself by the fire and enjoyed a warm meal, the queen went secretly to the guest chamber. She ordered the maids to prepare the finest bed in the palace, but not in the usual way. She placed a single tiny green pea at the very bottom of the bedstead, and upon it she had 20 mattresses stacked, each stuffed with goose down. And on top of those, she piled 20 soft quilts, embroidered with flowers and stitched with golden thread. The bed rose so high that a ladder had to be brought in to help the guest climb into it. The prince looked at the mountain of bedding in amazement. "Mother, is she to sleep upon this?" "Yes," said the queen calmly. "And if she is a true princess, we shall know by morning." The princess was led to her room. She thanked them graciously and looked up at the towering bed. "How unusual," she murmured. But being well bred, she said nothing more. With the help of the ladder, she climbed to the top, settled in, and the candles were blown out. But the night was long. The wind moaned around the shutters, rain tapped against the glass, and though the quilts were warm, the princess tossed and turned. She felt something strange beneath her, pressing against her back no matter how she shifted. She tried lying on her side. She tried lying face down. She turned her pillow over and pulled the quilts tighter, but the discomfort remained. By dawn, her eyes were heavy with exhaustion, and she longed for the night to end. The next morning, the queen asked sweetly, "And how did you rest, my dear?" The princess gave a polite smile, though her eyes were rimmed with shadows. "Your majesties are most kind to offer me shelter, but I scarcely close my eyes. Something hard pressed through the bed all night. My sides are sore, and I'm bruised all over." The prince's eyes widened. As for the queen, she clasped her hands together softly with quiet glee. "For only a true princess," the queen declared, "could feel a single pea through 20 mattresses and 20 quilts." The court gasped. The prince, however, only looked at the young woman with newfound admiration. Her honesty, her composure despite her weariness, and her delicate sensitivity all proved her noble heart. In time, the princess and the prince grew to love one another deeply. Their wedding was celebrated with bells and music that echoed from the palace towers. The pea, meanwhile, was carefully placed in a glass case in the palace treasury, where it could be seen by visitors for many generations. And so the prince found his true princess, and the princess found a home where she was cherished. The truth remains that one little green pea changed 2 lives forever. There, that's a true story. I hope you have a wonderful, restful, peaceful day or night, wherever you are, whatever may have brought you here. And I hope that you'll join me again sometime.